To assess the prospect of this diplomatic effort, Rajan Menon joins us now live from New York. He's the director of the Grand Strategy Program at Defense Priorities and Professor Emeritus of International Relations at the City College of New York. Welcome back to the Rundown, Professor. So another attempt of peace talks. What's the chance that the UN chief is going to be able to tell Putin successfully to stop this war?
First, good to be back with you, Andrew. I think the chances of Mr. Gutierrez arranging a ceasefire, let alone an overall settlement of the beginnings of one, are next to zero. He has called for humanitarian corridors, he's called for a ceasefire, he's called attention to the atrocities, but all of those have continued. So I don't hold out much hope, frankly, that anything will come of this. It is interesting, however, that both Putin and Zelensky have agreed to meet with him, particularly interesting in the case of Putin.
Well, tell me about that. Why is that interesting? And if there's zero chance, or near zero chance, as you say, that Putin will stop this war in Ukraine, why would he go to Moscow?
Gutierrez wants to go to Moscow for his own reasons, which is that he wants to try to end the carnage as soon as possible. Why did Putin agree to meet with him? I think unlike, say, the United States or Britain, with which relations are downright poisonous, that is not the case in the United Nations. The United Nations is not seen by Putin as an anti-Russian organization. So he loses nothing by welcoming Mr. Gutierrez as an interlocutor, and probably loses something by simply saying, I won't even meet with you.
So, but the United Nations has been criticized for not being able to take any meaningful action against Russia. So is this an attempt to show that the UN has some teeth?
You know, Andrew, every single Secretary General of the UN since the very beginning has said the following: the UN can be no better than its members. It has no independent enforcement power. It has no police or military force. It has a Security Council that authorizes major action, but any member of the Security Council, and Russia is one, can veto it. So I think we expect the UN to deliver way too much compared to the power that it has at times like this. I understand the frustration, but Mr. Gutierrez really is holding very weak hands.
By going to Moscow, does he in any way kind of legitimize Russia's war in Ukraine?
I don't think he legitimizes it, because I think he will certainly raise with Mr. Putin, although he won't go public with this, the concern about the loss of civilian lives, because the Russian war has entailed a significant amount of attacks on civilian targets, and I think he will certainly bring this up.
You've said that this latest phase in the war is make or break for Vladimir Putin. Why is that?
Right. As you remember, the war began on February 24th, and Putin's declared aim was to replace the government in Kiev and indeed control as much of Ukraine as he could. So they moved in two directions: in the south, where they made some headway; in the north, downward toward Kiev, where they did not make a headway. So now they've swung the battle to the east, to the Donbass, and they must win this, because Putin has now fought for 2 months and has nothing really to show for it. So the objective, I think, now is to push out the boundaries of the two provinces, Luhansk and Donetsk, where the two so-called Russian-backed republics are, as far west as possible, to take additional land to the west, and then consolidate this land bridge which runs from southwestern Russia through southern Ukraine all the way to Crimea, and show that that is the gain that he's going to take home.
What do you make of what the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, said, that he fears that Russia is not going to just stop at Ukraine, that it's eyeing other countries, that this is just the beginning? Is that a legitimate fear?
You know, I think Mr. Zelensky needs very badly, and for understandable reasons, as much weaponry as possible. But I don't think that Vladimir Putin, who has his hands more than full in Ukraine, against an army that everybody expected would be trounced by him, is in any position, having been mired in a war in Ukraine, to eye an attack on other countries. I just don't think that is part of his aim now, and it's certainly beyond his capabilities.
Sir, appreciate you taking the time again. Thank you. That is Rajan Menon, the director of the Grand Strategy Program at Defense Priorities and Professor Emeritus of International Relations at the City College of New York.